welcome to the Dr. Dex podcast. My name is Jason Russell. So I have the pleasure of introducing you to Mr. Scot Sheffield. He is our first industry professional to be on our podcast. Scott, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us on such short notice. I am so grateful for that as well. But
thanks for having me.
Part of the Dr. Dex podcast, we've had all kinds of different people on our podcast, mostly builders and some guys that have had a big influence on the internet, a lot of guys on social media and YouTubers and that kind of thing. But it's also nice to have industry professionals so we can get a overall perspective of what's going on around the clock, as far as our whole entire industry goes. So Scott, you're in our world, our outdoor living world, and that's awesome. But before we get into any of that, why don't you give me a little bit of a history on you and like where'd you grow up when you were a kid, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I grew up on the Gulf Coast of Texas, in between Galveston Island and the Louisiana border. Grew up, lower income family. My grandfather had a shrimp boat. My dad was working class, worked in the oil and gas industry, played sports. I'm the oldest of three boys. I had a dad that he wouldn't pay anybody to do anything. So when we remodeled the bathroom, it was me and my dad and my younger brothers doing that. When we had to deck the attic, when we had to replace the roof, it was me and my brothers doing it. So that was my intro into construction at a very young age, is just working with my dad. And if anybody's done that with their father and you bring the wrong tool or you don't hold the flashlight properly or one of those kind of things, that was my upbringing into construction. So from there, I joined the Marine Corps. I'd never been anywhere outside of my little circle. My whole family lived within 15 minutes of my house. Never really been anywhere, never really seen or done anything, Because my grandfather had a shrimp boat, I ate fresh seafood 6 days a week, and I just thought that was the norm. And
that's normal.
We didn't go to restaurants, right? We didn't go to restaurants. We didn't do things like that. So I joined the Marine Corps, and I started traveling, and I realized, there's a whole different world out there. And instead of shying away from it, I really tried to embrace as much as I could from other cultures and other regions and just really dive into it. I lived in Japan for a little over a year.
Oh, wow.
While I was there, Japan's amazing. It's this mix of the most ultra modern of everything and super conservative, and the relationship between those two mindsets working together is pretty fascinating to see.
Oh, I bet. I bet. So before you go further, what was your junior high, grade school, junior high growing up? Did you participate in any kind of sports or anything like that?
I played soccer. I played baseball. I was 5'4" until I was a senior, so I was a little small for football.
Mm-hmm.
So mostly soccer and baseball. Again, oldest of three boys. Mm-hmm. Very outdoors. I spent a lot of time in the outdoors. Growing up in Texas in the 80s, I could leave Friday with a fishing pole and a 22 at 10 years old and go for the weekend, and nobody cared.
Oh, cool.
Right?
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Definitely wouldn't happen today.
No, not at all. Yeah, everybody thinks, it's a whole different world now, isn't it?
It's a completely different world.
All right, so then you got through high school, and you joined the military.
I did.
Okay, so you said, you went through basic. How was that?
My biggest problem in basic, to be honest, was not laughing at other people.
Oh, yeah?
I grew up, my dad was my soccer coach. I got yelled at and screamed at and had to work hard a lot. So that part wasn't it. It was the reactions to people who had never been yelled at before and never really experienced anything. When you are under some extreme stress, people do funny things.
Yeah, I bet.
And yelling and screaming and, my biggest struggle was not laughing at other people, and I got in trouble a lot for laughing.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, how many push-ups did you have to do for...
A ton, just for laughing at people, right?
Your chest and shoulders, you must have been massive, bro.
Yeah, so my my job in the Marines, I was a construction lineman. So,
Okay.
you know, went through boot camp, then I went to 29 Palms in the middle of the desert in California. 29 Palms is a dump. It is in the middle of nowhere.
Is that a military base?
It is. It's a
Okay.
base. It's right outside of Joshua Tree National Park. And we used to joke because the Bible says the Joshua Tree lines the gates of heaven and hell.
Yeah.
And there's only two places the Joshua Tree grows naturally. That's in Jerusalem and Joshua Tree National Park in California. And that is right outside 29 Palms. So we used to say,
So you're on the hell side
29
of
Palms
it.
was hell. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
So that was our joke. 29 Palms was hell because,
And what was your specialty in the infantry?
So I was a communications specialist. I had
Okay.
multiple jobs, but my primary was I was a construction lineman. So I
What's that
learned
mean?
I learned how to build telephone towers. I learned how to set telephone poles, climb telephone poles, run phone lines, operate switchboards.
So you're primal to communications.
I was, yes. But I also learned how to do phone taps and surveillance and operate switchboards, operate the radio signals, do satellite uplinks, splice fiber optics, all of this kind of stuff, and really lay the communication network for a base when it would go in, basically,
Oh wow,
while
impressive.
getting shot at.
Oh, fun, even better.
Yeah, it's good times.
So okay, so you get your training. So you go through basic, and then you get the specialty. So do you specialize in this training? And is that something that you get to choose, or is it something that they say, hey, we want you to do this?
It's a little bit. It depends on. So there's a test you take before you go into the military called the ASVAB, and it's a basic IQ test. And depending on how you score on this test, you have certain jobs available to you. And usually you will get to pick, hey, here are my top 3 options. But then if you don't score well enough, they say, no, you're going to go in the infantry. So
Okay.
I scored well enough that I got to pick what I wanted to do. And I thought the communications arena would help me the most once I got out.
Are those skills that you still use today?
Absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
No. I had a pretty serious injury while I was in, and then my knees and my back couldn't take climbing telephone poles and climbing towers all day, every day. Like, I have some friends that I served with in the same thing that work for companies that, you see when you're traveling the flashing light at the top of the tower. Well,
Yeah. Oh, there's a train.
if one of those goes out, those light bulbs,
Yeah.
the FAA fines that company like thousands of dollars per hour until that light is replaced.
Really?
So the people who climb the towers to replace those light bulbs are on call 24/7. It can make a pretty substantial living, but they also have to be like get anywhere within the United States within 12 hours. So
Interesting.
yeah, so there's a lot to it, but some of these guys are climbing 500, 600, 700-foot towers to replace a light bulb.
I've
and
seen
making
some
150 grand a year.
Wow, I've seen some of that on social media where these guys are taking these pictures from the top of the towers. Like,
Yeah.
wow, man, you are up there.
And
You are up there.
they have guide cables and stuff like that, but those things sway pretty serious.
Yeah, I
in the
bet.
wind. And
I bet.
it'll make you contemplate the meaning of life when you're on top of a 600-foot tower swaying in the wind.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah,
You want to have a
it's-
parachute with you just in case you want to free jump from that.
Yeah,
or
it's
or
pretty
you slip.
intense. It's pretty
bet.
intense for sure.
So, okay, tell me about you're in the military, you got your specialized training, and you said you went to China.
I went to Japan.
So,
Japan.
oh, Japan. Excuse me.
Japan, yeah.
Even better. So, when you go to Japan, and how do you navigate? Just like, let's say you have a day to recreation or whatever, and you
Yeah.
just want to go tour the city. How do you navigate that and get around?
So one of the really good things about Japan is they have multiple military bases in Japan, being an allied country. Also, the Japanese learn to speak English starting in like second grade. So most of them know enough English to communicate enough for you to get around. So it's not like you're just stuck knowing nothing. And they're very polite people. So if you ask for help, they will all help you.
That's cool.
So it's, and part of it's just being adventurous, getting out there and going to see like
Sure.
what's up. And one of the coolest things I got to do in Japan is we hiked Mount Fuji. So you hike the mountain, and the top of the mountain, you're in the clouds, so you can see like the whole horizon of clouds because you're up in the clouds on the top of the mountain. It's pretty cool.
That is cool.
So I've done that. We found some ruins of an old Buddhist temple once and camped out there overnight, and we got to see just a lot of really cool things in Japan. But I also, in the military, they have flights that you can fly from base to base. They call it space available. If there's a cargo ship or a cargo plane going, you can fly from base to base for like $20. So we would fly to Korea for the weekend, or fly to Guam, or fly to Australia, or fly to Indonesia. So I got to see the almost all of Southeast Asia while I was there, just taking these space available flights, and just we'd have it would be Memorial Day, so we'd have a 4-day weekend, and I'd just go.
Cool.
And see what I could see.
So you got to see part of the world on the government.
I did. And, part of it is just being a early 20 kid with no fear, and I'm just going to go do it. Today, there's no way in hell I would do some of that stuff. Like, I would have to have an agenda and a plan and have all my flights booked and my hotels and all. And there we just went. No hotels, no nothing, and just figured it out.
Yeah, because what if there was not space available on the plane and you had to be back to report back to duty by 8 a.m. on Monday morning, and you'd miss the Sunday flight back? You're just in trouble, or more push-ups,
you
or
just
what?
get in trouble. But
Okay.
luckily we never had that happen. And at that time, I also didn't have to have. I had a active duty military ID, so I didn't need a passport either.
Oh, cool.
So because I'm flying on a military plane to a military base, I didn't need a passport.
Gotcha.
So I just
Cool.
travel around and see what I could see. I ate some pretty weird things in my travels, but
Oh, I bet.
yeah.
I bet some of them I probably wouldn't be on board with.
No, so I've seen some of the things we tried on Fear Factor before.
Oh, okay.
When that was going on. Yeah,
Sure.
It was some wild
Gnarly.
stuff. Yeah.
All right,
But it was
so
also a good time.
Cool. I bet. So when you're in Japan, how far along were you in your military time? Like,
So Japan was my first duty station. So I was like 19 when I got there.
okay.
So I was in Japan from 19 to 20.
Then what?
Then when I was at 20, I moved back to California. So I spent right at 2.5 years in California,
Okay.
right out of, San Diego area.
Nice. That's a nice area, man. I've spent a little bit of time down there.
Yeah,
Pacific Beach.
Yeah, that's where I lived.
areas.
I lived in Pacific Beach
Oh,
for a
man.
year.
That's one of
And I
my
lived in
favorite
Mission Bay for a little
locations
bit,
on
too.
Earth. Yeah, that is a beautiful place.
So that would have been it was 2000 when I moved to California. So I was in Japan during 99 and into 2000, and then in 2000 I moved to California.
Okay. And then how much longer were you in the military for after that?
I got off of active duty in 2002, and I got full discharge in 2004.
Okay, so how many years total did you spend in the military?
So I was 4 years on active duty, and then 2 years of reserve after that.
Okay,
So
and what
6
were
years
you?
total.
Okay, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
What were you doing during those 2 years of reserve?
Really, I was sitting at home in Texas, hoping it didn't get bad enough to where I got recalled to go to war.
Okay.
That was
That's a
that would've
legit
been-
concern.
that would have been 2002, 2003, and then into 2004.
Okay.
And I had a lot of friends in Iraq, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, all those places, and so it was a legit concerned that I was going to get recalled at any minute.
And then after those 2 years, you're fully discharged.
Yep.
What are you doing then?
So during that time, I started going to college. I thought I was going to be my plan was to teach math and coach soccer. And I did that for 1 year, and I decided that was absolutely not for me. While I was doing that, I had a landscaping business that I was running. And, like I said, I had a pretty serious injury. Today, I've had 7 knee reconstructions and a few back surgeries and a few other things. But I realized quickly I couldn't keep digging holes for trees and, doing pavers all day, and my knees and back weren't going to take it. So that's when I got into big box retail. So I was a store manager, a district manager at Lowe's for 15 years.
Wow.
So,
okay.
That was something. The plan was I was going to work at Lowe's till my wife finished college, and then I was going to go back. Well, let's rewind a little bit.
Sure.
While I was on reserve duty, I was going to college, running a landscape business. I lost my house and everything I owned in a hurricane.
Oh, no.
And I moved from the Gulf Coast of Texas to Dallas in 2005.
Okay.
So in 2005, that's when I started working for Lowe's full-time and decided my wife was going to finish college because she was closer to graduating than I was. And the plan was I was going to go back to school when she finished. Well, and that was at University of North Texas here in the Dallas area. By the time she graduated, I was making more money as a manager at Lowe's than I ever would as a teacher.
Right.
Right. So I just kind of stayed in that career path until I realized, I got to a point, I had kids by that time, and I realized I'm working 90 plus hours a week and I don't see my family. Right. That's it.
That's all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
no. I get that as well. 100% understand where you're coming from. Yeah.
I lived and worked in the same town, and I was working either 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. or noon to midnight and there were sometimes I wouldn't see my family for 2 weeks, even though I lived and worked in the same town. So,
right.
And I decided that, that was no longer the path for me.
Did Lowe's require you to work a 12-hour shift?
As a store manager and district manager, 12 hours was the minimum.
Oh, wow. So district manager. So you're in charge of many Lowe's locations at that point.
I was a sales manager for 13 different Lowe's stores, and somewhere in the $650-ish million of revenue.
So in one day, you could not take 1 hour for each store and still meet any kind of requirement. And you got to have more than 1 hour per store anyways, plus travel time. So how do you tackle that? Are you working with 1 or 2 a day, or?
That was usually what I would usually be in 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon.
You're spending 6 hours at each one.
Yeah. And then,
dang.
I'm in Dallas, so traffic can be pretty hectic. So hour of travel in between.
That's brutal. That is brutal. So when was that nearing its end point? That was around what time frame, so year wise?
That would have been 2016, 2017. I stopped that. From there, I went into lumber brokering for a year. And
what was that like?
I enjoyed it, but to be honest, I made more business than the company could keep up with. And
you were really good at your job.
I was really good at my job, and I sold more than they could build. We were selling custom crates, pallets, shipping materials, and then lumber itself. And I was selling more than we could produce to the point it started costing me money.
Because you had connections. You had some deep connections, man. And those 13 years at Lowe's really brought you a lot of people that needed what you were doing.
And to circle back to what we do today, I tell people a lot that our business is all about connections, and there are too many people that don't understand that and don't realize I'm not saying you manipulate that or take advantage of it, but they don't realize how important the connections we build are. You
That's
know?
deep. Yeah, man. You're onto something there. You might want to put that in a book. Jot that down on a book or something.
Yeah. Right.
Or write about
Right.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
That's pretty cool.
So I left lumber brokering, and I had this guy that worked for me at Lowe's. He was my number one salesperson in my whole district. Call me, and he told me about, hey, there's this. I'm working for this company called Fortress. You should check it out. And I'm like, traveling sales guy. Those guys sell like knives and vacuum cleaners. I don't want to do that crap. Like, that's weird. I'm not going to go knock on people's door and try to sell them stuff. That's just strange. And he was like, no, just come check it out, see what I do. And, you know, fast forward 8 years later, I've been with Fortress 8 years now, and I'm director of wholesale, and I oversee everything in the U.S. and Canada. So I went from, in 8 years, 7.5 years, I went from territory manager of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana to pretty much running the whole show. And
Killer.
a lot of it's just been on building relationships with people in the industry. And, you know, I tell reps all the time, like, I don't try to sell anything. I don't try to get people to buy my products. I build relationships, and I pass on information, and I make people know I'm available when they need me. And that's it. And cool. I think too many people in our industry try to shove products down people's throat and try to say, if you don't use my product, we can't hang out. And that doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. I like your approach, man. That's awesome. So tell me a little bit more about the role you're taking in. Okay, let's talk about Fortress. Didn't they start out as railing, right?
Yeah, we started out. So our company originally was called Woodmark International, and we did interior stair parts.
Mm-hmm.
And then 23 years ago now, our owner bought the company from his father and decided to go into the exterior fencing and railing. So we've been doing fencing and railing for 23 years.
And what's his name?
Matt Scherstedt is our owner. Yeah.
And so it started as railing, but now you guys offer some. You guys were linked up with Everlast for a while as a deck board too, right?
We were. So we were the manufacturer and importer on record for the Everlast products in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are a metal manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a tough venture for us to get into, not only because there are so many decking lines out there. Like every time you see it, every trade show we go to, there's 15 new decking lines that we've never heard of, plus all the ones we all know. Right. And for a company that doesn't specialize in composites or PVCs, that was a tough spot for us to be in.
I was at a breakfast with the owner of Everlast, and I don't know if it was the owner of your company, but somebody high up in it. I don't recall his name at the time. I don't know if it was Jim or I don't recall. It's been several years, but I remember the formulation of that. Mm-hmm. And then a year or two ago, or whenever the dissolution of it was, yeah, it kind of seems like you guys are happier just rocking what you do.
Yeah.
You know, and not having a partner in any particular part of the company, right?
You know, to each their own. There are some companies that are good at being everything to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other companies that are really good at sticking to what they know, stay in their lane, and be the best at that you can be.
Right.
And we made the decision we wanted to stick to our core products and make those the best we possibly can.
There you go. That makes sense. That totally makes sense. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then for me personally, for the last probably 5 years, I've kind of been one of the people out there leading the charge in this alternative framing game.
Yep.
So, you know, we do, like, I just got back this morning from Boston. We just did one of our masterclass in Boston with Kevin from Raven Builders and Rich Valandry from Verlandry Outdoors, and we taught 36 contractors how to build with steel framing. And
Cool.
one of the things I'm doing right now is just traveling the country. We were in Seattle last month. I'm going to be in Omaha, Nebraska next month, and doing a class every month and just teaching people about alternative framing and dispelling some of the myths, if you will, behind all that. Like, right, you do it, you see people get this blocked, like they think, oh my God, this is from outer space, I can't do this. And it's
Right.
no different than any, like, there's some little minor tweaks and you might get a new saw, but in general, the methodology behind building it's the same.
No, I get it. I'm framing a lot of my stuff in ulterior metals as well, and I'm 100% on board with it. I think it's the wave of the future.
Absolutely.
As our lumber materials get more expensive and less in quality and inferior in moisture saturation and all these other issues that we're having with lumber, I think using an alternative frame in general, regardless of what it's made from, is going to be a better overall
Absolutely.
deal for the exterior build.
For multiple reasons.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, my family has land now in East Texas that we lease out to a logging company. When I was little, we leased that, they logged every 35 years. Now they pump the trees with so many chemicals and so many things, they log that same land in 7 years. They get the same size tree, same amount of yield in 7 years that they were getting in 35 years. But when you cut that tree open and you see the growth ring separation and the density of that, no wonder it looks like a hockey stick when you open your lumber package.
Right?
So,
yeah, that's bad news, man. It's terrible how they can genetically modify something for profit.
Right?
And
think about what they're doing to your food if they can do that to a tree you're building with.
Oh man, I know. And there's the internet can be a wonderful, but it also can be a deceiving place to go when you see some of this stuff. Because I have seen some things like, oh, has microplastics in it, or you're drinking your bottled water and it's killing you, or things like that, and you just like, man, who do I believe on this one, or is this science actually correct, or whatever.
I've gotten to build some pretty strong friendships with a lot of guys who have a good social media following or out there. I try to stay more in the background myself, but you can find anybody supporting anything on the internet.
Right.
And it's hard to determine what is fact, what is fiction, and what is just somebody promoting something that because they were given money to do it.
Right.
Whether it's in fitness, whether it's in nutrition, whether it's in what we do, any field out there, it's hard to know what's legit and what is just BS sometimes.
Yeah. That's where I put my money where my mouth is. I'll never share something personally unless I'm putting it in a build.
Yeah.
I'm putting my name on it, and it's obvious what I'm doing with it,
And I found that's one of the things I like the most about our segment of the construction industry. I meet so many that are just good people, right? And I think it's because there's enough mix of craftsmanship and creativity without being just craftsmanship. And there's a mix of, we'll get down and dirty and build a deck and be covered in sawdust and metal shavings and all this, but still have enough craftsmen to build a quality, aesthetically pleasing product. Versus, and not to diss those guys, but I mean, a roof is a roof and a fence is a fence, right? There's not a ton of craftsmanship in those things usually.
Right, unless it's copper.
And right, and there are a few things out there that change that. Some of these Tesla tiles that can charge your house and some of the crazy stuff out there.
I was looking into those, man, but it just wasn't. It didn't seem viable for our region.
Yeah,
but
because you don't get enough sunlight.
Right. Even if you have some western-facing roof lines, it just didn't seem like it was going to be the right answer for our particular install. Plus, the expense. It was going to be 60 grand or something like that to do our roof in Tesla tiles, and I was like, well, I can have it re-roof for $12,000, or I can spend
Yeah.
$40,000 to $60,000. It's like, and I might have to re-roof one more time in my lifetime. So I'm like, yeah, we'll probably just go for that $12,000 option instead.
Completely fair, but it's still cool, you know.
It is cool. I'm big on technology. I'm not the most technologically advanced person, but I have adopted a lot of it. This whole AI movement. I'm getting trapped in it a little bit, but not a ton. Do you use AI at all in your work or anything like that?
I do, selfishly, I use it to write a lot of my emails and a lot of presentations. Go into a couple of, whether I'm using Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever I'm using, right? And I'll go in there and say, hey, write me an email rebuttal to blah, 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 blah from this point of view, and I've had to learn a lot about how to manipulate it to get what I want. And I have to tell it, write this from this perspective to convey this message, to do all that. But it makes me sound a lot smarter than I really am.
That's
so
awesome,
I use that
though.
a lot.
Man, if I was in high school nowadays, huh, Cal? And you had ChatGPT, write me a book report on Tom Sawyer
Right.
from a 7th grader's perspective. Make a few misspellings.
Right.
I'll take a B.
Yeah.
I'll take a B.
That's
if
right.
I don't have to do it.
Something else.
Too good.
Right. Something else I've really liked lately, kind of along those same lines. It was either Forbes or Washington Post, or one of them said the construction industry is the last to adapt to anything new and innovative. Like years ago, I would talk to contractors and other people, and not talk down to them, but really be confused when I'd ask them, well, why are you doing this way? Well, that's the way my dad did it, my granddad did it, my great-granddad did it, so that's the way we do it at my company. It's like, there's a better way to do this, right? But now I'm starting to see, again, in our space, there's a lot of new people taking over, a lot of guys taking over for their dad, or, a shift. And the newer generation, they want to be new and innovative, and they want to use the coolest things, and they want to post Instagram and YouTube videos of them using cool products. And that's been a big shift over the last probably 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
That wasn't happening before.
Yeah, I mean, we started bending decking like 20 years ago.
Right.
So I've always been a little bit on the cusp, like willing to fail to try to do something really unique and exciting in our industry.
And I think that's taken off to where there's, like you said, 20 years ago, there might have been 1 or 2 people like you doing that and nobody else. And now there's a whole movement of people that are willing to try new things and be innovative, And you see some of the designs people are coming up with, like, Dan from Northern Outdoor, all the lighting stuff he's doing, and Dave Settlemeyer, all the crazy design stuff he's doing. And it's cool for me kind of on the peripheral seeing all the cool things happening in our space.
Yeah, I agree. And the internet, the social media side of it is really taken off, and it's showing the world basically what you can do, what's possible. And there are some really amazing builders that are on the platform, and they are sharing just about everything they do. So it's a really great resource. We didn't have that resource when we were up and coming.
Yeah.
I didn't. And I didn't have a way to even put it out there. I really started my social so I could show a portfolio of photographs to my clients.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize I was going to be teaching people how to do anything.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what it turned into, Just sharing your journey sometimes gets you an audience because they just want to hear what you have to say, which is kind of cool.
And there's been times where it's been a little awkward. Like I said, I try to stay on the peripheral a lot and a little bit more behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't post my face on my social media hardly ever, right? I don't put myself on the forefront on a lot of things. I try to promote my partners, the contractors I'm doing stuff with, those kind of things. And for a while, it was weird when somebody would come up and start talking to me and like they knew me. And I was like, how do you know who I am? Like, I don't put my face on anything. I don't get out in the forefront. How do you know me? And that was a little awkward the
I
first few
bet.
times.
Yeah, and it always will be, to be honest. Like, you seem like a very humble person. I try to run that way as well. But, you go to a trade show and 50 people come up to you that you've never met in your life, and they all act like they know you, and they're smiling
Yeah.
and they shake your hand and all that. And it's something that I don't think I'll ever get used to that.
Yeah, it's
That's really interesting.
really strange. And it's even weirder when, I see people that I know have a substantial following and they come up and talk to me like,
Cool.
bro, you got 1 million followers. How do you know who I am?
Right. Well, you're making an imprint.
I try to, and that's really what it boils down to. I want to be somebody who educates and helps people better their careers and get farther. And whether you use my products or not, I don't really care. I probably shouldn't say that because my company might get mad, but I don't. Like, if I can teach you some cool stuff and help you get better, that's what makes me happy.
Right.
And eventually it'll come back around.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, eventually it'll come back around. I believe that as well.
Yeah. So
Sometimes, there's competing brands and all this stuff, and it can be all convoluted at times. But in the end, we're all human beings. We're all in the same industry.
100%.
We're all kind of fighting for the same cause. So why is there this stipulation or rhetoric that we have to go around?
And I learned, and maybe it's just some of my background, I learned this in the military really quick. Like, it doesn't matter your religious beliefs. It doesn't matter where you're from. Deep down, we all have similar fears. We all have similar goals. We are more similar than we are different. So why does it matter what deck board you use? Like, that doesn't make you any better or worse of a person.
Right.
If you're a turd of a person, you're going to be a turd of a person no matter what deck board you use.
Right. Oh, I have a perfect example of that, but we'll save that for another day.
Right. But you know what I'm saying, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
it doesn't matter what railing you use or what deck board you use. It doesn't change your character as a person.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes certain brands, they want to be all inclusive. They want you to be all in with them and nobody else. So in certain circumstances, it's actually maybe the marketing manager or upper management or the president of the company that maybe doesn't quite look at it the same way that you do or I do.
Sure.
And sometimes, I'll just say it as my own. Sometimes you got to comply or obey.
Yeah.
What is requested of you if you're under their spectrum or if you're under their payroll.
Yeah, for sure.
And so are you in Texas right now?
I'm in Texas. I'm about 30 minutes north of Dallas.
Okay. So how do you like it there?
So, I tell people I travel a lot for work. Before I started with Fortress, I'd never been east of Louisiana or north of Colorado.
Okay.
Since I've been working for Fortress, I've been in 35 more states than I was before. So I travel a lot. There are a lot of beautiful places in the country, a lot of places I really enjoy being, but there's nowhere else I would rather live.
Okay, that's something to be said. Man, you've been to 3/4 of the country.
I've as of right now, I've been to 40 different states. So
Okay.
I've been almost everywhere.
You pretty much covered it because I figure some states are basically the spitting image of another one, right?
Like I don't like the cold very much. I've had too many knee surgeries to be in the cold. Like I went to a show the other day, it's supposed to be 50 all week. I went to Minneapolis. I get there and they get 10 inches of snow overnight, and I thought I was going to die. I saw a snowplow for the first time in my life.
Wow, dude.
Right?
Yeah, I'd probably want to bail myself. I don't blame you, man.
So between the freedoms I have, regardless of political beliefs, I can do whatever I want in Texas and nobody gives me crap for it. If I want to have guns, I can have guns. If I don't want to have guns, I don't have to have guns.
No, you can have them, though.
Right?
Sure.
I can have as many as I want. I can walk around concealed carry. I can walk around open carry. I can drive whatever kind of car or truck I want.
Heck yeah.
Nobody says shit to me. You know, I can, if I want to have land, I can have land. They're not going to put all kinds of weird taxes and stuff on me.
Oh, well.
The amount of freedom I have here to live.
I love it.
And on top of that, we have some of the best school systems, public school systems in the country in Texas.
Hey, be careful how much you say now, because people might be moving into your neighborhood if you talk it up too good.
This is true, but you know what? We welcome everybody.
Good for you, man. Sounds like the most perfect place ever. So, yeah, Fortress railings. Is it all? There's steel and aluminum, correct?
Steel and aluminum, right? So in the fencing and railing, we do steel and aluminum, both commercial and residential, and then in the railing we do cable and glass as well. All pre-cut panels, so no kit systems that you have to put together, no components, it's a very quick, easy, simple installation.
John Lee uses a lot of your product.
John's a good friend of mine. We have a lot of groups that we're in together outside of work. We do a lot of the legacy stuff together with Chris Breen. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he uses a lot of our railing. Kevin at Raven uses a lot of our railing. A lot of guys that we both know use a decent amount of our Fortress railing products. Levi from TC Decks uses a lot. Scott Kelly.
Yeah, it's funny. I was building this monster deck a couple years ago, and the client had a black 5 foot, or maybe it was 6 foot high, black picket fence, and we were running materials up and down. We had to take a section apart to get our machine down in there. Mm-hmm. And, you know, lo and behold, I pull it apart, and there's a tag on it, and it says Fortress on it. I was like,
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably it.
You know, I see how that works. I haven't done much containment fencing in steel or aluminum yet, but that seemed like a pretty solid, legitimate answer for a perimeter fence.
Where we do a lot of the fence in the residential application is for pool code. If you have a swimming pool, you have to have a fence around it that meets certain non-climbable specifications to get homeowners insurance.
Sure.
So we sell a lot of pool code fencing so people can get their homeowners insurance.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. So like 5 foot high or minimum?
Yep.
Interesting.
5 foot high, 3 rail. It's got to have a 40. It's either 46 or 48 inch gap with no rails, so nobody can.
You can't grab onto it. Yeah, you can't grab on that and climb yourself up.
Yep. Or at
that
least
makes
kids
sense.
Can't.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Understood.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. And then you guys have were you guys the first company to like majorly distribute a framing system?
We weren't the first, but what I'll say is we were the first complete system, and we're still really the only complete system. Mm-hmm. Trex came out first with their elevation system.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And shortly after that came out, what we did is get with a bunch of contractors who had used it before and got their pros and cons on it, and then developed our system. And we were the first to come out with a stair system. We were the first to have our own bracketry and proprietary brackets. Everyone else for the longest time, you had to source Simpson brackets to put it together, or you didn't have a stair option, or you didn't have multiple post heights, and you didn't have all of these things. You could still build it, but it wasn't the most convenient and user-friendly. So we were the first complete system on the market.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And so when you're traveling, and you're going to these different events, what do you guys are you promoting one more than the other, or equally, or what's your role in that?
Most of the events we're doing is framing focused, and we'll do some railing, but it's mostly teaching people how to install railing on the steel frame and putting, people don't know how to sell alternative framing right in most cases. All they do is look at a joist-to-joist comparison, and they say, oh my God, this is 3 times more expensive. I don't know what I'm going to do. And they don't take in the span charts. They don't take in all of these labor savings where you're not crowning your lumber, you're not grading your lumber, you're not planing anything down, you're not putting joist tape on. You know all these things, but a lot of the people out there don't.
Right.
Look at all of these, residual savings around the system. We just did a cost analysis in Colorado with a contractor. He built 2 decks in the same neighborhood, same exact size, same exact everything, 20 by 20. He built one out of PT, one out of steel framing. His straight up material cost was 3 times more on the material. His all-in cost on the project was 6% difference on the total project.
Because it's just the frame. We're not talking about the decking's the same. Everything, all the accessories, everything else is pretty much the same. It's just the frame.
It's just
so
the
it's
frame.
not like the deck's not going to be 3 times as expensive.
Right.
It's just the frame that's more expensive. So it drops. You're right. It drops at the percentages. I figured if you're 15 to 20%, you're probably doing good.
Yeah.
To get an alternate frame for that.
Here's the magic
amount
of this.
more.
He factored in his labor savings, the culling of the lumber, every detail he factored in, but he charged a 30% premium on the job.
Sure.
So his all-in cost was only 6% difference, but he charged a 30% premium.
So he made 25%.
25% more profit on the job.
That works for me.
Yeah. And that, when I can explain people, that's when they really start, you can see in their eyes, the wheels start turning, and they start doing the math and be like, man, I did 15 jobs this year for $2.5 million of revenue. If I would have sold 25%, same amount of jobs, and just charged 25% more on there, how much more profit would I have?
Right. So I think what you guys are doing with these events where you're having several contractors come to a specific location is kind of smart, because for you personally to go out to 20 guys takes weeks.
It's not going to happen.
Right? But to have all those guys come in on one day and put on an event, and you guys show how the build's going and let everybody touch and feel and maybe install a few fasteners or get the whole gist of it. Tell me about one of those events. Like, how does that work out? And when do you show up and all that?
Yeah, so we call it the Fortress Masterclass. We team up with our alliance members who are our top steel framing contractors across the country. And, we schedule one of these events. We post online, social media, website, everything for people to register and come out. And it's usually a 1.5-day event. So the night before, we do something like Top Golf or something like that and do a sales training and teach people how to sell the product. Right. And then the following day is a live build where they can come put hands on, ask questions, and truly build. Because a lot of people, there's a lot of fear and trepidation stepping into something new. And if we can minimize that, it's much easier to take that leap when they've already put hands on without the risk of, basically losing all their profit on a product that they've never installed before.
Sure. Cool. All right, Scott. Well, I think that concludes our initial podcast. And now we're going to end this one and go into our
bonus episode.
Awesome.
I keep wanting to call it bonus feature, but bonus episode. And one thing I'm excited about is we get to talk to a true road warrior, or I guess I'll say air warrior. Yeah. You're an air warrior, and so I want to talk about some of the tips and tricks you have for us and in travel and how you do what you do and why. So if you guys want to hear that, you're going to have to join our Patreon channel. It's as cheap as $5 a month, and you can really go all in and go for $50 a month if you want. You could give us all kinds of money, but it doesn't matter. It's just a little thing we're starting that just has a little bit extra. But Scott, thank you so much.
Absolutely, thanks
for being on
our
podcast. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. Don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit that bell icon, guys. All right, Calvin, hit that music. We're out of here.